Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. And welcome back to Cameron Reads Comics. Today I'm going to be talking about my haul at San Diego Comic-Con. So usually I don't buy a lot at conventions. Like, I'm not super into exclusives. I'll bring my own books and I'll drag around a CGC witness based on who's going to be there and get stuff signed. And I did a lot of that. I did my biggest submission ever with around 20 books from Comic-Con alone. Signed, remarked, whatever. Now this year, it was the first year I actually ever got convention exclusives. So let's just go over what I got. First, I actually do have 2 books signed, or that were mine. I didn't buy them at Comic-Con. They were mine, and I got them signed. But at the DC booth in particular, CGC witnesses were not allowed to be there. I think because it got in the way of the line for their signings. And so Mark Waid was there. And so I got 2 Mark Waid books signed because I had to go wait in his line 2 times. First in the Mark Waid line is Flash number 92, signed by Mark Waid in gold. I barely got to be in his line for like 2.5 seconds. I was like, hey man, like, I can only be here for so long, but I love you. You're my favorite. And he said, get back in line. And so I gave him that one. I don't know which one I gave him first. I gave him that one. First appearance of Impulse. And then I gave him this one, Superman Birthright number 1, his first Superman story, my favorite Mark Waid Superman story. 2, I had a bunch of Marvel books for him to sign, but I was like, I'm not going to bring a Marvel book to a DC signing. I just thought it'd be in bad taste. Also, none of these are in any order, so I got one thing at the end. That's like probably the best thing I got. Okay, next thing up, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham Book 3 Ash Can Edition, which is by Raphael Grandpa. And I got something on the back of my bag and board, so we're going to swap it out. But there you go. That was handed out at the Batman panel. I haven't read any Gargoyle of Gotham, so I really just had no idea what's going on over there. But yeah, they handed that out. I found out that book was $30, and they were just handing it out. Like, people are selling that online, so probably going to sell it online. Next up, I didn't go to the retail section a lot because the con is like so crazy in that regard, where it's like, oh my gosh, these are all so expensive. What am I going to do? How am I going to afford all these? Oh my gosh, what happened? Why are these all sticky? But this is a book I've always wanted. Finally stumbled upon John Byrne's Superman Man of Steel number 1. That is the variant cover. So I think it's the B cover. Probably my first time I've ever loved a variant more than the other cover, except for like Batman 608. So yeah, I saw that and I knew, in my opinion, that was a book I always wanted to spend $20 on, and I got it for $20. So I was like, yep, that's exactly it. Next book, I was wandering around Artist Alley and I ran into Norm Ratmond. Norm, he's a great Flash artist, I think, in my opinion. And I saw him around and I was just looking at his stuff and he said, oh, I'm selling remarks. He had pages for $60 and I didn't see a page I loved, or like a run, like if he had a Flash page or he had something. I didn't see anything I loved for it, but it's also a $60 page. What do you think you're going to get? But he did have remarks, and I knew I wanted a Flash from him, so I got a Flash remark on Flash 45, just purchased as is. Monsters of the Month variant, so Flash 45. It looks like New 52, Flash 45. So I got that for like $50, which I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I like that. I like Norm's Flash stuff, so that was good to get. Next up is, okay, so I had to miss the Jim Lee and Friends panel because there was a fat line. And like, I got there 40 minutes early to wait in the line, and nobody from my line got in, which was just crazy. Or not a lot of people. You know, I was probably in the back. I was in the first half of the group, and not even the first half got in. The line barely moved, so I don't know what happened. But we didn't get in for the Jim Lee and Friends panel, which is like usually where they make some bigger DC announcements. Honestly, not much came out of that one, in my opinion. Like, I didn't really hear any brand new news that got announced. Like last year, they announced Godzilla, King Kong, Justice League. I was okay missing it. You know, I can't go to every panel. Like, you have to understand going to a convention that size that you're not going to be able to get to do everything. And I got pretty damn close. So I'm okay with that. I'm also not a Hall H guy, so you really won't see me in Hall H ever. when I went to Jeff Loeb's booth, yes, Jeff Loeb has a booth at Essential Sequential, and he had these flyers that they handed out, and this one's signed by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, and I got it for $30. So, and it's Jim Lee doing the Tim Sales style. So I think it's his variant cover on a placard, and it looks pretty cool, and Jim Lee can do no wrong. So I'm glad to have that. Okay, next up is one of the writer artists I was most excited to see there was Zoe Thorogood. I loved It's Only at the Center of the Earth, and so whatever she had, I wanted to buy. So I waited in line to go see her, and she had this book, which is called Brainworms, a collection of nonsense comics from Zoe Thorogood's Worryingly Smooth Frontal Lobe. I also got a sticker. It's my favorite. A sticker. It says, thinking about boobs and killing myself. And it's just a little dude on. I was like, I want that. It's on the back of the book. And she also sketched in it for me, which is pretty cool. So she signed it, sketched it. I bought it straight from the horse's mouth. But everything she does, I want now after reading It's Only at the Center of the Earth. I'm very, very excited about that. She was like one of the creators I wanted to beat the most, like had such a big impact on me. And I think she really got her roses at this con, which is so good. That's all I want. I think she's the next big thing. And so to have met her and have this I'm glad. Speaking of her, I got a copy of It's Only at the Center of the Earth. But the funny thing is, I thought it was signed. This was not signed. I got it from the Image booth next to a bunch of comics that were signed. This one was not. So literally, I just got another copy of the book I already have. But that's okay, because I love it. And literally, I will either sell it or keep it or whatever. But I love this book. And everyone should read this. This is my best book I read of the year. And this is one of the most special things I got at the convention from Daniel Warren Johnson. His line at the con, another thing I couldn't go to. His line at the con was so long because Transformers is absolutely crushing right now. So I just kind of gave up on trying to see him. But I did see him at the Eisner Awards. I highly recommend anyone who is a comic book fan go to the Eisner Awards. It's one of the coolest things in the entire industry that you could do. And I went, and it was amazing. He won 2 Eisners that night for Best Ongoing Series, Transformers, and then Best Writer-Inker, Writer-Artist. And that was him. He won, and I think rightfully so. I also read Do a Powerbomb this year. It was amazing. Now, the book, like, I love Beta Ray Bill too. I love him. And so I saw Daniel Warren Johnson at the Eisners, didn't talk to him. You don't want to go talk to him. You know, they're all just like, I don't want to be a fan at that event. I just want to go up and talk to like my creators. Like, I love you. If you come close to me in my vicinity, I'll corner you. But that's the last thing they need. At the after party, which is everyone should also go to because it's the coolest thing I've ever been to in my life. But the next day, I see him hanging out at the Felix Comic Art booth. One thing it's really helpful to know at a convention if you're trying to meet your favorite creators is who their art representatives are. That is how I met Daniel Warren Johnson and someone like Jeff Loeb and Klaus Janson, all these people who are just posted up at their artist representatives booth. Comic Sketch Art is another one where they all know me by name now because I'm always waiting in their lines to get books signed with a CGC witness. Anyways, I walk by the Felix Comic Art booth, who is Daniel Warren Johnson's representation, and I see Daniel's there, and I'm like, hey man, your line's been so long all weekend. I just want to let you know that, like, congrats on your 2 Eisners. It was the next day. I just read Do a Powerbomb this year. I read Wonder Woman Dead Earth, review coming soon. I'm so glad to see, like, you're so successful. Your line's been so long. I haven't been able to stand in it. And he said, because it's always capped too. That's the other thing, is the lines have a cap sometimes. He said, thank you so much, man. Have you read Murder Falcon? I actually haven't read Murder Falcon yet, but I bought it. And I do. That's what I said to him. I was like, I haven't read it yet, but I own it. I bought it. And I saw this, and I was like, it's during Donny Cates' Thor run. It's where Beta Ray Bill goes after they fight, which is a sick issue. He takes over the series. And so then I said, oh, but I really want to go read this. And he grabs it. He looks at his art commissioner, his boss, his art boss, and he says, oh, hey, this one's on me. He freaking sketches Beta Ray Bill in it for me. Is that right? Yeah. Beta Ray Bill in it for me. Gifts me the trade. And restores my faith in humanity. Daniel Warren Johnson, the single best interaction I had at the entire convention. One of the nicest guys in the industry. And now I get to go read this and thank him for his kindness one more time. Hopefully get him on the podcast. We'll see. Okay, next up is the McFarlane Toys DC Adventures of Superman variant. This is the action cover variant, not the foil variant. So they did the same cover twice. You only get this one for spending over $100 at the DC booth. And so I got it, and it was free, I guess, after $100. So I got that. Next up is actually something very sought after at the con. It is the Absolute Batman SDCC exclusive Ashcan variant. I want this to be put in context for you guys of the actual size of the issue, because people are zooming in like it is like this size. It is not. It is a pamphlet. It's not 8.5 by 11. It is like 8.5. That's it. It's pretty good. I read it because there's no dialogue in there too. It's just Nick Dragata's art. So it's very cool. I think I'm going to keep it because I think it's going to be worth something if I really like that series. Bada bing, bada boom. I have it. Okay. Next up, we only got a couple more things. Next up are actually like the key issues that I bought. Batman number 655, which is the first appearance of Damian Wayne. I've been looking for this book because I just read Grant Morrison's Batman run, and I really like Damian, and so now it's like not technically the first appearance of Damian, depending. I think it is, but it's also the start of Grant Morrison's Batman run. I have this issue in a foil Virgin variant from last year, the Whatnot House. Now I got this one as it is, and I really like it. It's a near mint copy. It looks good. I'm very excited about it. I got it for $50. That's about as much as I wanted to spend on that. But yeah, I always buy raw. Fun fact. I always usually buy raw and then I'll get them graded myself. I don't really care for buying graded books. I just think you're spending a lot more money for something that very well could be. And I don't need all my books to be 9/8. You guys know that. Okay, next up is one of the single issues I've ever wanted most ever since I read it. I knew it was going to be expensive. I always thought I was going to spend $300 on this book, but when I saw it for this price, I knew I had to buy it, at least to begin with, and that is Green Lantern, Green Arrow, I think it's number 87, first appearance of Jon Stewart. Now, I love that issue because, yeah, it's cool. It is a first appearance, but the reason I actually got it is because of the backup in this issue. It's one of the greatest Green Arrow stories of all time. It's What Can One Man Do? Yeah, What Can One Man Do is the title of it. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. I cried when I read it the first time. It's a classic DC story. Everyone should read it. It's amazing. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that. Yeah, and I got it for $150, but it is a beat up copy. Spines rolled. I don't think the cover is detached, but I know that one staple is a lot more questionable than the other. Staples are rusted. I think there's mold on the cover. It's just beat. I wanted it and I could afford it, and now it can level up from there. So I bought the key. Okay, next up are a couple little trinkets. Yeah, I got a couple little trinkets. I can do these all in one. So at the Absolute Batman, it was I forget what panel that was. I just kind of marked where I got the Absolute Batman. It was the first DC panel on Thursday. It was kind of like the DC publishing initiative. They interviewed the in-house, like what Mark Waid's going to be doing. And then they interviewed the Absolute teams and kind of pitched that series. We got the Ashcan from that. They also gave us some pins, some Absolute Batman pins. I got those for free, which are pretty cool. San Diego Comic-Con pin with my badge. And then I got Made by Mutant pins, which is cool. Made by Mutant is what Mondo teased. The team at Mondo that was let go after the Funko team took over made their own brand again, and it's Mutant. And I think you should support them incredibly. I like Mondo, but I also love Made by Mutant. So they deserve to be. I bought this because I wasn't in love with all their merch, but if you like Mondo, you'll love Made by Mutant. They have a very cool Dune vinyl that is filled with sand. I think it's very cool. Okay, next one up is a bagged facsimile variant. I actually got this for Casual Comicer. Facsimile variant, but it's a movie homage cover. It is the Batman Begins variant by Dan Mora, facsimile edition of Detective Comics 27, SDCC exclusive. I got 2 copies. I got one for me, and I got one for Casual Comicer. Not a cheap book by any means, but I think it's being sold for a pretty good amount, and it's polybag sealed. So, very cool cover, very cool book. Glad to have it. And then the last thing I bought, well, I got this art portfolio because if I don't get it witnessed, then I do just want like a sketch from my favorite creators, and I want to immortalize it in here. And I have sketches from other creators, but the real thing I got this portfolio for was because Zoe Thorogood was selling original art pages. Now, that is a slippery slope, and it is not something I usually would buy because they're usually 4 digits, and I can't, if it's not a freaking splash page of, Batman by Alex Ross, then I can't justify it. This one, I could, though. Zoe was selling original art from her book, It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, and I got this page for under $300, which is, for a book I loved as much as I did, you guys have heard me talk about it. Yeah, for a book I loved as much as I did, I needed to buy it. And so I bought an original art page from Zoe Thorogood's It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. It is a page where she is getting her period on a plane. And she just kind of like makes use of the materials with her. And it is wonderful, and it's mine, and I love it, and I'll never sell it. Or at least not as far as I know. So there you go. That is... Oh, I got one more thing. I'll show you. I'll be right back. Okay, last thing I got at San Diego Comic-Con was, besides that art, and I got it for $30, is the Superman at Centennial Park tribute statue action figure by McFarlane Toys, SDCC exclusive, the gold Superman with the eagle that sits on his arm, a la Dan Jurgens' Death of Superman run. I think it's just going to stay in its box like this forever. I don't think I'll ever see the figure, but it's mine. And that is like that, the variant covers, and that's what set me over for, what's it called? The Superman issue. So there you go. I'm Cameron. I don't just read comics. I love them. This is my first San Diego Comic-Con haul. Thanks for joining me. If you went, tell me the cool stuff you got. Make sure to clobber those like and subscribe buttons. I'll see you next time.